Okay, what's up, YouTube? This is a continuation of where we left off in my last video. Okay? Now, we're going to be coming back to this book again. The Book of God, and Encyclopedia proves that the black man is God. Now, I'm going to come from this book, and I'm going to come from another book that I've taught on before in my lessons on Forbidden Archaeology, Part 1 and Part 2. So, let's listen to this.
Because organic life is based on carbon chemistry. Carbon is the backbone of the DNA double helix. This might suggest that the birth of carbon in the universe is at the root of God's evolution as a genetic biological organism, which is relevant to us because we are his genetic descendants. Y'all don't like to hear God being talked about as a biological organism, do you? But see, this is Islam. This is how we do religion. We do real religion. We do religion as mathematics. We do God as real. So I'm not going to use the fluffy religious language, because that would just confuse you and frustrate my purposes for today. Do we have any idea when this might have occurred? Yes, we in fact do have an idea. Carbon is exclusively formed in the interior of stars. The abundant carbon found in your and my body is literally stardust, blasted from the core of dying red giants. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said what came out of space was a human being. The human being came from space. The black human being came from space, not from Africa. Not from Africa. The abundant carbon found in your and my body is literally stardust, blasted from the core of dying red giants. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said what came out of space was a human being. The human being came from space. The black human being came from space, not from Africa.
Okay. Now, we're going to come from two sources to prove that we don't come from no God. We don't come from here. What is our origin? You niggas don't know. So, this is a book I taught on before. It's called Ancient Alien Ancestors, Advanced Technology by Will Hart, right? And in section 1, they talk about something called Panspermia, the seeding of our world, right? Now listen to this. This means that panspermia means life coming from a so-called another planet, or coming from so-called outer space, coming from space. So let's go. Cosmic seeds of life. Listen to this. The notion that life originated elsewhere in the universe and later arrived on Earth is not the stuff of any science fiction writer's imagination. Today it is a solid scientific theory that explains how life came to Earth from the cosmos. Listen to this. The first documented mention of the idea appears in the writings of the 5th century BCE Greek philosopher Anaxagoras. He called his thesis panspermia, a Greek term that means seeds everywhere, right? Now, we fast forward in time, right? Fast forward in time, and now we're getting down to these guys. Where they at? We're fast forward in time, okay? Okay, let's go on. And you can read this on your own, okay? like right here. So they're talking about this panspermia, right? And it says, once again, this may sound like the stuff of science fiction novels, but it is not. As previously noted, Francis Crick proposed the theory in the 1950s. Now, Francis Crick is the guy who so-called discovered DNA. Given Crick's unimpeachable scientific credentials, being the co-discoverer of DNA of the DNA molecule, no one can dismiss this theory out of hand without having himself or herself come under close scrutiny, scientific scrutiny. Crick presented his view of directed panspermia and the arguments in support of this thesis in a small and little-known book titled Life Itself, Its Origin and Nature, published in 1981. Now listen to this. At the time, Crick was a member of the Medical Research Council Laboratory of Molecular Biology in Cambridge, England. L.E. Orgel, a British chemist, worked for the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, based in San Diego, California. In a paper they co-authored in 1973, they wrote the following, quote, "It was not until the middle of the 19th century that Pasteur and Tyndall completed the demonstration that spontaneous generation is not occurring on Earth nowadays." It says Darwin and a number of other biologists concluded that life must have evolved long ago when conditions were more favorable. Some other scientists, however, drew a quite different conclusion. They suppose that if life does not evolve from terrestrial non-living matters nowadays, it may never have done so. Hence, they argue life reached the Earth as an infection from another planet. They also address the issue of undirected panspermia. He says, quote, It now seems unlikely that an extraterrestrial living organisms could have reached the Earth either as spores driven from the radiation pressure from another star, or as living organisms embedded in a meteorite. As an alternative to these 19th century mechanisms, we have considered directed panspermia, the theory that organisms were deliberately transmitted to the Earth by intelligent beings on another planet. We conclude that it is possible that life reached the Earth in this way. Now, who are they talking about? Who and what are they talking about? Because it ain't white folks that's bringing life here. It's black people. So before these so-called planets came into existence, it had to evolve from something. Okay? Let's see here. Okay, so let's go here. So it says that the ancients talked about the lotus plant, right? It said the lotus plant is a seed plant yielding seed, which functions like the DNA molecule within the cell. This plant grows in the water, and amongst its broad leaves puts forth a flower, in the center of which is formed a seed vessel, shaped like an inverted cone, and punctured on top with little cavities, or cells, in which the seeds grow. The orifices of these cells being too small to let the seeds drop out when ripe, they shoot forth into new plants, in the places where they were formed. The bulb of the vessel serving as a matrix to nourish them until they acquire such a degree of magnitude and to burst it open and release themselves. This plant therefore is productive of itself and vegetating from its own nature without being fostered in the earth. Now, we're going to go over here. I'm going to drop down here on page 115. And it says here that Dr. Charles Price, former president of the American Chemical Association, stated his belief in 1971 that the fact that, quote, DNA language is the simplest one-cell organism is exactly the same DNA language that duplicates a human being suggests that one original cell became the progenitor of all life on Earth. What is progenitor? The forefather. Right? Let's go over here. Listen to this. In 1986, 285 scientists from 22 countries who participated in the landmark 8th Conference on the Origin of Life held at Berkeley in California agreed that, quote, all life on Earth, from bacteria to sequoia, trees to humans, evolved from a single ancestral cell. The first cell to develop was the prokaryotic cell. The simplest of all cells containing only a circular molecule of double-stranded DNA, folded up in a nuclear area. This cell lacks the nucleus surrounded by the nuclear envelope, which all other cells possess. This is the simple single-cell monoron from the kingdom of the monorail. The monomer, right? It says it's a prokaryotic cell, right? And it says what is most interesting about the conclusion and current thinking of modern scientists is the suggestion that this primordial ancestral cell did not originate on Earth, but in interstellar space. Lynn Margulis, in her summation of the 4th Conference on the Origin of Life, said, quote, the central problem inspiring these conferences, perhaps slightly better defined, is as unsolved as ever. He says, did our organic matter originate in interstellar space? The infant science of radio astronomy has produced evidence that some of the smaller organic molecules are there. Now remember, we looked up the definition of radio, right? Radio you want definition? Radio, it says the transmission and reception of electromagnetic waves of radio frequency, especially those carrying sound messages. Okay? So let's look up the word SETI, right? And isn't it interesting that they have that these white folks who are searching for extraterrestrials would name the thing SETI? And then you have the deity Set in Egypt, who is black. Come on now, think, people. This is about you. You need to know who these so-called extraterrestrials are. Let's see. So you have right here, SETI. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence is a scientific effort to discover intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, primarily by attempting to discover radio signals that indicate intelligence. Are you seeing this? So we just read the definition of radio. So they're searching for intelligence. They're searching for radio signals that indicate intelligent life. Now we just found out that what came out of space. Let's keep on going. So it says that in 1986, the New York Times headline story read, quote, NASA to probe heavens or the skies for clues to life's origin on Earth. September 6, 1986, Sandra Blakesley summed up the current thinking of the scientific community at the time. Quote, driving the new search for clues to life's beginnings is the recent discovery that comets, meteors, and interstellar dust carry vast amounts of complex organic chemicals as well as the elements crucial to living cells. Scientists believe that Earth and other planets have been seeded from space with these potential building blocks of life. Didn't we just read this in this white man, in this dude's book? Ancient Aliens, Panspermia? Huh? Let's keep on going. The suggestion that the ancestral cell and life originated not on Earth but in space is only confirming what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said 20 years ago. Elijah Muhammad said, quote, the atom out of which man was created from space, it was out in space where he originated. An atom of life was in the darkness of space, and he came out of that atom. What came out of space was a human being. What human being? The black man. Listen to this. The DNA molecule, like the light particle, is paradoxical in nature. It brings together two mutually exclusive elements, water and fire. DNA exists in water, which makes up 90% of the cell. This water is salt water, and its concentration of salt is remarkably similar to that of the world's ocean. Quote, we sweat and cry what is basically salt water, according to biologists Lynn Margulis and Dorian Sagan. Here is the footnotes at the bottom. Now, I said this a couple days ago, that when you sweat, if you taste your sweat, what does it taste like? Salt. And what is salt water? The water in the ocean. So you are made up of the elements. And the elements evolved over time. It made the trees, the rocks, all this shit you see in everyday life came down to the black man. It started off as it started off in triple darkness, and then an atom popped up, and then it started spinning, evolving itself. While this DNA lives in water, it spits fire like a dragon. It has been discovered that the DNA of all living beings emit tiny balls of fire called photons. Okay? Talked about this before. Now, let's go here. We're going here to it says day 5 saw the birth of the animal kingdom. The fish or the aquatic or the watery animals were the first to develop from the primordial waters. And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life, and the fowls that they may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. Okay, we know the verse. Okay, now let's keep on going. From watery animals or aquatic animals, land animals formed. And then it says here that the atom had to go through all the following stages: immetalization, inherbation, and enzymization before it could develop the physical shell of man, incarnation. See that? God says, in principle of zoology, makes the same observation. He says the progress of the succession of beings. quote, consists in an increasingly similarity of the living fauna and among the vertebrates, especially in the increasing resemblance to man. Man is the end towards which all animal creation has tended from the first appearance of the Paleozoic fishes. And then it goes on to say that finally the material, or rather semi-material shell or human body of God, man, emerged on the sixth day. This man body is different from the man of Genesis 2 that was made from the dust of the ground on day 7. This man body was made in the image and likeness of the Elohim. Okay, it says the Elohim were balls of fire themselves, and the man body that developed on day 6 was likewise of a fiery nature. Okay, now we're going to go here. So we just broke down evolution that quick for you. Just broke it down that quick. Telling you all that life did not start on the earth. Life did not start on the earth. It didn't. Where did it start from? In space, so-called space, in the sky. So before these other planets came into being, right? It started off as this. Straight darkness. Okay? One second. I'm breaking it down for you. I'm telling you what their own scientists are saying. So you got the atom, nucleus, proton and neutrons, the hadron and the quark on the atom, right? And three stages of God's physical evolution, right? God as all energy, the O. God as the point, the atom, and then God as the diameter, man. So you have two sides, don't you? You have a left side and a right side. Left side of the brain, the right side of the brain. You have two arms, the left arm, the right arm, the left leg, the right leg. The left leg, the right leg. You have two testicles, right? Two testes, okay? Now, so here, it says here that when the Spirit of God moved, it began its process of materialization. This initial movement of the Spirit of God is called the primal mobile or first motion. The Hindus call it the churning of space. Churning is to spin in a spiral type motion. This spiral is called in mathematics the exponential spiral, or the exponent spiral, and is represented by the small e and the formula R equals E as the value of pi 3.14. It's basic to descriptions of all circles. So E is basic to all spirals. Okay? Elijah Muhammad says, this is our number 6. He, God, made himself evolve and then he caused whatever comes into darkness to revolve like himself. All right, and here's the exponential or the exponent spiral found throughout the universe. Right, this is in 1997, and they found this fossil from England, and they date this thing to 270 million years, and the spiral of the galaxy. Okay? Now, so we just broke it down that quick. They're telling you clear as day that life did not start, that life did not begin on Earth. It came from somewhere else. Where did it come from? Space. In the sky. What we call outer space. Or heaven. Heaven is just the damn sky. Okay? So, we're going to read it again. I'm putting this information out there because, like I said, YouTube might try to shut my channel down. So you need to be getting this information now while you can. Okay? They're telling you that DNA does not come from Earth. Okay, so let's do it again.
Red giants formed in the interior of Earth. Yes, we in fact do have an idea. Carbon is exclusively formed in the interior of stars. The abundant carbon found in your and my body is literally stardust. Blasted from the core of dying red giants, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said what came out of space was a human being. The human being came from space. The black human being came from space, not from Africa.
So the extraterrestrials are black people. We are the damn aliens, the extraterrestrials. It ain't white people.
Not from Africa.
All that we come from Africa, we don't even come from the earth wasn't even made. We didn't come from the damn earth.
Yes, we in fact do have an idea. Carbon is exclusively formed in the interior of stars. The abundant carbon found in your and my body is literally stardust. Blasted from the core of dying red giants, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said what came out of space was a human being. The human being came from space. The black human being came from space.
So, these people, who is called SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, is a scientific effort to discover intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, primarily by attempting to discover radio signals that indicate intelligent life. So what are they searching for? So they got this shit set up called SETI, searching for intelligent life. Searching for extraterrestrials. So when you type in extraterrestrials, you gonna get this bullshit. You click on images, what's gonna pop up? Some fucking graves. This garbage. This bullshit. But this is garbage, because if you go here to what's that guy's name? The guy who wrote those books. I forget the guy's name. Come back to me. He wrote the book. Let me see. War of the Worlds. Let me see. H.G. Wells. Here you go. H.G. Wells is the man who came up with that. The grades. H.G. Wells. Turn this down. So H.G. Wells, this white man, came up with them fucking grades. So I guess the Greys got our DNA, huh? Answer that. I guess the reptiles got our DNA.
Not from Africa. Not from Africa. Y'all got this thing twisted. And how does that help us in dating? Simple. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that the first star, the sun, was created 6 trillion years after the atom. So the production of carbon could only have begun at that point. Thus, element number 6 of the periodic table would have emerged at the earliest 6 trillion years after element 1 of the periodic table. Is that what is meant when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says the original man became 6? Did he become for the first time during this extended transfiguration and organic being? Slide, please. One more thing before we leave carbon.
Now let me go here. And you're gonna hear what's name said. Close out some of these windows real quick. So we just broke down the searching for SETI, search for extraterrestrials, right? The extraterrestrials are already here, black people. One second. So you gotta have people break this stuff down for you, man. Let's see if I can find it real quick. I'm gonna have to go back to my other video. Let me see if I can find it. I just played off my other video. So you can hear this. Yeah. Here we go. Go back. Give me 1 second. Excuse me. Excuse me. So let me see. Okay, here we go. Let's do this. Neutrons. Okay. Now my computer want to slow up now. I don't know why it's doing this. That's so-called.
Okay. So, did you get that? That's what I meant.
No, did you get that though? Do you understand?
Yeah, I get that. But my other question is your spirit. Of course, whatever it is here.
You mean my energy? My energy.
Right, your energy.
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you think your energy goes?
I got 5 children. They have my energy.
Okay, so you believe. So, okay.
No, I know.
So
They will continue life.
Okay, so when your life, your energy goes into your children. If you don't have any children, your energy just goes nowhere.
No. I am. In case y'all didn't know, take a basic science class, right? With 70% water.
So 70%.
Now, he said we're 70% water. I proved that in my last video. 75% water.
Everything will go back to water. And the other 30% is the elements. And now you're talking about spiritual energy. You're really talking about sun energy. Energy. Solar. We live in a solar system. Live in a sun system.
He's talking about this. What we looking at.
In the sun, but we just don't know it. Stars. Because we are stars. We're the children of the sun, but we just don't know it. Because we follow someone else's ancestor. That's right. We don't die. Niggas just multiply. That's right. That's just basic. If the world was to crack up the day of tomorrow, you gonna have some black people running around. You already know it. You already know it. You already got it. We're living predominantly on a brown planet. The majority of people on the planet are people of color. White people are an extension of us through mutation.
Okay. So let's go back here. I'm going to cut my video off.
If you check the periodic table again, the element with the atomic number 6 is carbon.
So we are God's genetic descendants through biology, through science. This is facts. So we are God, or creation, experiencing itself.
Which possesses 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. 6, 6, 6. As a hydrogen atom is the foundation of the material universe, the carbon atom is the foundation of all life or biology on Earth. Carbon forms the backbone of almost all of the important biological molecules in the body except water. And it therefore is the primary element for all materials found in living organisms. Indeed, the very terms organic and organism basically mean carbon base. Organic organism means carbon base because organic life is based on carbon chemistry. Carbon is the backbone of the DNA double helix. This might suggest that the birth of carbon in the universe is at the root of God's evolution as a genetic biological organism, which is relevant to us because we are his genetic descendants. Relevant to us because we are his genetic descendants. Y'all don't like to hear God being talked about as a biological organism, do you?
If you want the unadulterated truth, free of charge, come to my channel. Because you will learn who you are and where you come from. So, we're going to read this one more time. Let's read this one more time. Dr. Charles Price, former president of the American Chemical Association, stated his belief in 1971 that the fact that DNA language is the simplest one-cell organism is exactly the same DNA language that duplicates a human being, suggests that one original cell became the progenitor or the forefather of all life on Earth. In 1986, 285 scientists from 22 countries who participated in the landmark 8th Conference on the Origin of Life held at Berkeley and California agreed that, quote, all life on Earth, from bacteria to sequoia, trees to humans, evolved from a single ancestral cell. The first cell to develop was the prokaryotic cell, the simplest of all cells, containing only a circular molecule of double-stranded DNA, folded up in a nuclear area. This cell lacks the nucleus, surrounded by the nuclear envelope, which all other cells possess. This is the simple single-cell monoron from the kingdom Monera. What is most interesting about the conclusions and current thinking of modern science is the suggestion that this primordial ancestral cell did not originate on Earth, but interstellar space. Go back and watch the movie called Interstellar. What do you think they was doing out there? Who do you think that was about? Watch this movie called Interstellar. What do you think this movie's about? Movie right here, Interstellar. Movie's down there 3 to 4 hours long. 3 to 4 hours long. Right? And they break it down. They tell you. It says here that Lynn Margulis, in her summation of the fourth conference on the origin of life, said, the central problem inspiring these conferences, perhaps slightly better defined, is as unsolved as ever. Did our organic matter originate in interstellar space? The infant science of radio astronomy has produced evidence that some of the smaller organic molecules are there. In 1986, the New York Times headline story read, NASA to probe heavens for clues to life origin on Earth. September 6, 1986, Sandra Blakeslee summed up the current thinking of the scientific community at the time. Driving the new search for the clues of life's beginnings is the recent discovery that comets, meteors, and interstellar dust carry vast amounts of complex organic chemicals, as well as the elements crucial to living cells. Scientists believe that Earth and other planets have been seeded from space with these potential building blocks of life. The suggestion that the ancestral cell and life originated not on Earth, but in space, is only confirming what Elijah Muhammad said 20 years ago. The atom, out of which man was created, came from space. It was out in space where he originated. And an atom of life was in the darkness of the space, and he came out of that atom. What came out of space was a human being, a black man, the black man. And then right here it says, the DNA molecule, like the light particle, is paradoxical in nature. It brings together two mutually exclusive elements, water and fire. DNA exists in water, which makes up 90% of the cell. This water is salt water, and its concentration of salt is remarkably similar to that of the world's ocean. Quote, we sweat and cry, what is basically salt water, according to biologists Lynn Margulis and Dorian Sagan. Facts. How do you gonna debunk this? You can't.
The backbone of the DNA double helix. This might suggest that the birth of carbon in the universe is at the root of God's evolution as a genetic biological organism, which is relevant to us because we are his genetic descendants. Y'all don't like to hear God being talked about as a biological organism, do you? Carbon is the backbone for all the material universe. The carbon atom is the foundation of things. As a hydrogen atom is the foundation of the material universe. Protons, you check the periodic table into And does this have anything to do with the darkness that covered him after he emerged? Slide, please. If you check the periodic table again, the element with the atomic number 6 is carbon, which possesses 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. 6, 6, 6.
So the beast in Revelation 6 and 6 is talking about us, black people. That's what it's talking about.
Hydrogen atom is the foundation of the material universe. The carbon atom is the foundation of our life or biology on Earth. Carbon forms the backbone of almost all of the important biological molecules in the body except water. And it therefore is the primary element for all materials found in living organisms. Indeed, the very terms organic and organism basically mean carbon-based. Organic organism means carbon-based because organic life is based on carbon chemistry. Carbon is the backbone of the DNA double helix. This might suggest that the birth of carbon in the universe is at the root of God's evolution as a genetic biological organism, which is relevant to us because we are his genetic descendants. Y'all don't like to hear God being talked about. Real, you and carbon is exclusively formed in the interior of stars. The abundant carbon found in your and my body is literally stardust, blasted from the core of dying red giants. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad said what came out of space was a human being. The human being came from space. The black human being came from space, not from Africa. Not from Africa.
With that being said, peace.